Hello, it's 12 o'clock. Welcome to Midday Live. It's coming to you from our news hub here at Addis Ababa. My name is Efua Tieku. Coming up in the headlines this afternoon, as Ghana joins the rest of the continent to commemorate Africa Day, we ask whether the union has lived up to expectation. Deputy Roads and Highways Minister Anthony Carbo reports to police next week to assist in investigation on Tiger IPI investigative documentary. Economist lauds government's management of the economy. And on the international front, North Korea says it is still willing to talk at any time in any form after US President Donald Trump cancelled his meeting with Kim Jong-un. And we have details of these and more in the next 1 hour. Do stay with us. Now to our very first story, a section of Ghanaian journalists took to the streets of Accra this morning to register their displeasure about the usual assault of journalists in their line of duty. A recent report by the Media Foundation for West Africa indicates that within 15 months, 17 journalists in Ghana have been attacked.
It was not the usual demonstration. Perhaps the ban on noise-making in Accra necessitated a silent protest which attracted less than 20 journalists. The walk started from the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation through Nima Police Station, Kwame Nkrumah Circle, and finally ended at Multimedia Company Limited.
The media, we are part of government, and that's our job. We are not to be brutalized or assaulted because of our profession. If this didn't go well with you, with a journalist, you don't have to assault the person. You don't have to slap the person. You don't have to think the person is an onion seller or something like that.
This journalist recounted his ordeal in the line of duty.
During the 2016 limited registration exercise, I was attacked by a mob. I nearly lost an eye.
A public-spirited Ghanaian stressed there is a need to protect journalists.
The moment I heard that media men have been attacked, I had to join them. Because without the media, Ghana will not be Ghana. The media is always involved, coming out with messages to educate the masses. So why must we sit down and look at the media being brutalized?
Convener of the Press for Justice demonstration, Kofi Asante-Mensah, was not discouraged about the numbers. He explained the group will soon petition government.
We don't count numbers. All we need is to send our message across. The indication is so loud, and we have gained our mission. The next thing is to send a petition to the Minister of Information and call upon him with some few requests. The paramount of it all is to educate the Ghanaian populace on the roles and the responsibility of the ordinary journalists, how we have to do our work, and the reasons why they don't have to attack us, and also seek for justice for those who have been under or manhandled or received inhumane activities from especially the police.
Now, international relations expert Professor Vladimir Njudanso has cast doubt over the success of African Continental Free Trade Area. Now, he says he predicts the free trade area is likely to be hampered by the existence of several regional trade blocs within the continent.
The African Continental Free Trade Area is a product of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement among some African states. If ratified, the agreement would result in the largest free trade area in terms of participating countries since the formation of the World Trade Organization. African heads of state gathered in Kigali, Rwanda, in March 2018 to sign the proposed agreement. 44 of the 55 members of the African Union signed it on March 21, 2018. International relations expert and director of academic affairs at the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Professor Vladimir Njudanso, said the ACFTA is bound to run into problems.
And Africa is good at bringing about grandeur programs, oblivious to the fact that there are hiccups along the way. I'm not a fan of the CFTA, honestly speaking. I'm a fan of Abuja 91. And I believe that if we rationalize the RECs, using them as building blocks for a continental union, that is where we belong. And
the agreement initially requires members to remove tariffs from 90% of goods, allowing free access to commodities, goods and services across the continent. The United Nations Economic Commission for Africa estimates that the agreement will boost intra-African trade by 52% by 2022. The proposal will come into force after ratification by 22 of the signatory states.
Well, in a related development, a historian and researcher at the Ghana Institute of Journalism, Lateef Tahiru, has enjoined Africans to fully exploit their similar goals and aspirations to promote regional integration and economic activities. According to him, unity is critical to Africa's socio-economic transformation.
The quest for continental unity can be traced to the works of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Tafawa Balewa, and Gabriel Haile Selassie. The formation of the now-defunct Organization of African Unity, OAU, marked an important juncture for the total liberation of the African continent. Continental unity was further given a boost as the OAU transited to the African Union, the AU, which has since played critical roles in the socio-economic and political development of Africa. Considered the largest continent and the cradle of civilization, it covers approximately 11.7 million square miles and a population of more than 1 billion people, which translates into about 10% of the world's populace. The cultures and the physical variations of its people reflect adaptation to both hot, dry and wet climates, with rich cultural heritage manifested in arts, crafts, folklore and religion, as well as clothing, cuisine and music. This diversity, however, is strengthened by a strong bond of similarities.
We have a lot of things that unite us. If we talk of our culture, that is one. And we talk of culture, we can talk about language, we can talk about food. And in terms of language, you realize that most of the languages that we have today evolved from a common language. And then also if you look at it in terms of generally our way of life, our family systems, everything, you realize that Africa, we really have recognition of extended family.
Historian and researcher at the Ghana Institute of Journalism, Tahiru Lateef, indicated the continent needs committed and selfless leaders to accelerate its transformational agenda.
We seeing ourselves as one, and then we trying to engage in some kind of activities that will bring us together. For instance, we've been having sporting activities, we've been having cultural activities, we have Panafest, etc. Okay, all these things are to ensure that they bring Africans together.
He charged the African Union to play their part to ensure peace and stability in the sub-region, to enable the continent meet the aspirations of a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development.
So let's still stay with the issue of African Union. The transition of the Organization of African Unity, that's OAU, established in 1963 to the African Union in 2001 was heralded with considerable optimism. It was envisaged that the Union will lead a transformational agenda to prioritize security, good governance and economic development. Now, as we commemorate AU Day, we ask whether the Union has performed satisfactorily. Now, to help us with that question is Emmanuel Bansa, who is an ECOWAS and AU policy analyst, and he joins me on the line. Good afternoon to you, Emmanuel.
Yeah, good afternoon, Efua. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for joining us. Now, so how would you assess the performance of the African Union?
First of all, this is a very valid question to ask on a day like this. I think for countries like Ghana, especially, it's especially important to ask this question because Ghana has had the privilege of being one of the few countries not to have gone through a civil war, and so thankfully has not needed to benefit from the support of institutions like ECOWAS or the African Union. Sadly, we cannot say the same about countries on the continent, some of our neighbors and parts of East Africa, parts of Central Africa and so on, who have benefited from the intervention of the AU in their affairs. You see, peace and security, as much as we like not to talk about it on the continent, has been and will continue to dog the agenda of the African Union for quite a while. Because at the end of the day, peace and security is what we need before we can really focus on our economic integration, even though regional groupings like ECOWAS and so on and so forth have been able to work hand in hand, try to have a twin-track approach whereby they factor in economic integration along with peace and security, you will see that even in West Africa, the region Ghanaians are more familiar with, you will see that the Gambia alone in 2017, what happened in the Gambia tells us that peace and security continues to be an important issue. But even let's get back to a couple of years earlier, decades earlier, 1990, and I always like to cite this case because I feel that my fellow Ghanaians need to be apprised of the issue of what ECOWAS was able to do with ECOMOG in 1990 when West African troops went into Liberia, fully West African force, the first African peacekeeping force that got support from the UN Security Council to go in and deal with Charles Taylor. Now, I mention ECOWAS because ECOWAS is important on a day like this because we cannot talk about the African Union without talking about the regional groupings such as ECOWAS, SADC, and all the other ones that some of you may or may not have heard of. So here's the case that peace and security, back to your question, that peace and security is a critical issue. And in fact, in 2011, the AU was voted, the AU Peace and Security Council was voted as the most powerful organ of the Peace and Security Council was voted as the most powerful organ of the AU for obvious reasons, because peace and security, they meet on a permanent session. And every single day they are there with ambassadors, diplomats, whoever, to deliberate over the issues that dog the continent.
Now, Emmanuel, you have talked about peace and security. What about also the issue of migration?
Well, migration has been a long-running issue since the days of, Nkrumah's time, 1963, when the OAU was set up before it became the AU in 2001. But it really gained prominence probably around a couple of years ago when we started seeing the exodus or really the offshoot of some of the conflicts that had triggered this. 2011 is an important date to remember because that's the year when Libya, Muammar Gaddafi was deposed. And that unfortunately triggered a blowback of scales in which we cannot imagine. With the Gaddafi's loss, what happened was that we had an unstable Libya. We now had a Libya that was open to gun smuggling, to migration, illegal migration, to human trafficking, all these evils that the UN Office on Drugs and Crime have talked about in 2013 in a report about what some of the things that dealt with the West African sub-region. And so you had 2011 Gaddafi going, now the Sahel had opened up. Now the Sahel is the region between West Africa and North Africa. It's ungoverned, it's unpoliced, and therefore a lot of the criminal activities were taking place, including human smuggling, the migration. A lot of people who felt that they could go to Europe were passing through that route and being subject to being made victims of human smuggling because they had to pay bribes along the way to be able to get through Libya to then try and cross over to Europe and so on and so forth. So migration, it is recently that migration has become a problem, even though it started way back in the 60s because of all these conflicts.
Right.
When people do not feel comfortable in their own state, they are most likely to move about. We may have all the issues in Ghana, and we may complain this, that, and the other, doom, so on and so forth. But although we do hear stories about people crossing over, most people are happy to live in their own countries and do not want to necessarily go over to another country to go and look for greener pastures if things are going on well in the country. So, and countless reports have shown this, Afrobarometer studies and so on and so forth, show that people value democracy, the freedom of speech, these important things. And once they get these things, they're more likely to stay in their country and make,
very well.
Victims.
Very well. Thank you. Thank you very much. You've made the point very clearly. Thank you so much for speaking to us. We've been speaking to Emmanuel Bensa. He is an ECOWAS and AU policy analyst. You're watching Midday Live on TV3. Now to more stories. Speakers at a United Nations Forum on Peacekeeping have proposed the mass repatriation of peacekeepers who sexually abuse indigents in their home countries. They are of the firm belief this will deter those involved in such actions and also protect the integrity of the United Nations and other peacekeepers on mission.
at a dialogue to commemorate the 70 years of UN peacekeeping service and sacrifice across the world. However, throughout the 70 years of UN, some peacekeepers have been cited for sexually exploiting indigents in their home countries. In 2018, the Ghana Police Service was implicated by the United Nations for sexually assaulting indigents in South Sudan and Somalia. Though the police has initiated investigations into the matter, the speakers proposed stiffer punishment to those involved. One of the speakers, who is the director of Legon Center for International Diplomacy, Lesia, Professor Henrietta Mensah-Bonsu, proposed naming and shaming of those involved.
There should be a naming and shaming of TCCs and even mass repatriation of contingents, because for the very first time a special representative was sacked by the Secretary General for not giving attention to SCA.
A criminologist, Professor Kenatifwa, suggested that the UN tightens its protocols to prevent these sexual exploitations.
It is also the case that the UN continues to tighten its preventive as well as remedial measures against these kinds of vices, particularly sexual exploitation and abuse.
A retired senior military officer, Major General Henry Anyidohu, proposed to member countries to adopt good governance to reduce possible conflicts. He also suggested that member countries should learn lessons from the conflicts in Rwanda.
There was a lull in the fighting, lull in the sense that the French and the Belgians and the Italians arranged with the warring parties to have a break so that they could evacuate their nationals. That period of 3-4 days was what the United Nations should have used to reinforce our mission. Because for those 3-4 days, there was no fighting. United Nations did not do that. They were thinking in New York of closing the mission.
UN resident coordinator to Ghana, Christine Evans-Clark, said the UN will champion a campaign to recruit more women into the service.
The theme this year on service and sacrifice coincides with the release of an internal high-level review of peacekeeping fatalities and injuries due to violent acts.
Other speakers of the view that Ghanaian soldiers on peacekeeping operations should be properly recognized. So far, more than 3,700 peacekeepers have lost their lives since the UN was set up in 1948.
You're watching Middaylive on TV3. It's now time for our video report.
This is the main road from Tanoso to Apatrapa new site. It is also leads to Ebuakwa. Many drivers fly this road whenever there is heavy traffic jam on the Tanoso Ebuakwa main road. On this road is this bridge at the verge of collapsing due to erosion. Almost part of the road has been washed off, making the road a single one on that part of the bridge. It is a threat to pedestrians and drivers. Therefore, we appeal to authorities concerned to come to our aid and repair the bridge from total collapse. Reporting live from Apatrapa News site and also Kumasi in this Ashanti region. This is your citizen journalist, Mrs. Gertrude Demenya.
Thank you very much, Gertrude. Now, you can also send your video report via WhatsApp number 05514330044. The number again, 05514330044. You're watching Middaylive on TV3. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. You're welcome back to Middaylive. The police says it has not invited the Member of Parliament for Laura and Deputy Roads Minister Anthony Cabo for interrogation. Director of Police Public Affairs Directorate ACP David Senanu Eklu insists they would need more time to gather evidence before going public on the allegations of influence peddling and defrauding by false pretense by the GFA President, Kwesi Nyantakyi.
Even before the intended police-media interaction Thursday morning, news went viral the Deputy Roads Minister Anthony Cabo had been invited by the police CID in relation to the Tiger IPI tip that had allegedly indicted the Ghana Football Association boss, Kwesi Nyantakyi. According to the report, Anthony Kabo was suspected at the CID headquarters in the company of his lawyers, but the police has denied the claim.
In respect of the invitation of the Deputy Minister for Roads and Highways, I want to emphasize and to inform you that nobody has invited him to come and assist with investigations. Investigations has just commenced, and we appeal to the press to give us ample time to enable us come confidently to you with whatever findings that we have.
Some members of parliament reportedly expressed misgivings over the CID invitation to the Laura MP, insisting it constitutes breach of privileges. Meanwhile, the police say it is not obliged to give details of its investigations into the allegation against the GFA boss. According to the Director General of Police Public Affairs Directorate, ACP David Senanu Eklu, it is unprofessional to parade suspects before the media or aid the media to solicit information from suspects.
We confirm that yes, he was arrested at the airport and he was being interrogated at the CID headquarters. He has been granted bail and investigations are ongoing. But we are coming out with new media guidelines, and under best practice, police will not parade suspects before journalists. Let us get it. It is wrong for the police to parade suspects before journalists, except where there's a need to identify the suspect. There is nowhere in the world where commentaries are run on investigations, up-to-date commentary. It doesn't happen anywhere.
Well, meanwhile, TV3 can confirm that the police have invited the Deputy Minister for Roads, Anthony Kabo. According to the information, the Laura MP is expected to report to the police on Monday, May 28. The lawmaker's name was reportedly mentioned on the Tiger PI investigative documentary, of which the police is investigating the Ghana Football Association President, Kwesi Nyantakyi. So one of the fallouts of that very investigation has ignited the debate over access to public officials. Now, there have been several allegations in the past about the activities of individuals and also lobbyists whose access to public office holders have come under scrutiny. Now, the question is there a need to regulate access to public office holders, including legislators, ministers, and other key government officials? We've been joined on Skype by Adam Senanu, who is the co-chair for Citizen Movement Against Corruption. Good afternoon to you. Mr. Senanu, can you hear me?
Good afternoon to you. Yes, I can.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to us. So, is there a need to regulate lobbying?
Yes, I believe there is. Given the kind of activities that lobbyists have been reported to be engaged in Ghana, and some of the stories that have come up, including the recent one, where the amounts of money that is exchanging hands obviously is to influence and to lobby and to get certain things done. We ought to have a regime that is governed by some kind of law or some kind of instrument that makes it easier to then find people culpable when they begin to do or take actions that are against the public interest.
So how should we proceed with this? Are we looking at a bill, for instance?
Yes, I believe so. I think that if we are so minded, we ought to bring to the attention of Parliament. Usually it's the executive that ought to initiate these types of bills. And it's about time we begin to think about this, given the types of issues that have come up recently regarding scenarios like this, where people take huge sums of money and you're not quite sure what exactly they are trying to influence, and most of these don't, as it were, augur well for the society at large.
Now, talking about monies, should this also be a part of the narrative? I mean, in this case, talking about money, parting with monies.
Yes, obviously, whatever bill it is, as you find in other jurisdictions, one should be minded about how money exchanges hands and for what purpose. It's safer if the lobbying is to the extent that you have such huge sums of money, you can be sure that one can hold captive and capture the public interest, put it aside, and then the parochial interests of some individuals or business interests to be what you find being expressed or articulated in policy or in activities and programs that are implemented on behalf of the citizenry, which is not the kind of situation one wants.
So are there some best practices that we can look at in respect to access to public officials?
Well, I mean, I don't think that lobbying by itself at any stage stops access to public officials. I think the U.S. is one jurisdiction where you have lobbying well defined, and it's probably a place where one can look at to see what they have in place to guard and to guide what happens in this kind of context. It will not limit access to public officials, but it will, as it were, guide what is possible, what is acceptable, and what is not. And that's the kind of framework we would need to make sure that we can take people on if they go outside boundaries that have been set.
Thank you very much, Edem Senano. He is the co-chair for Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Thank you very much. Now, some Zongo youths in Kumasi are demanding answers from the police for allegedly shooting to kill a colleague on Wednesday afternoon. The angry youth claim Halidu Lawak was unjustifiably killed by Operation Calm Life at Onwe Amanfrom when he went to inspect a parcel of land he bought.
The youth say the police has, since the unfortunate incident, failed to give reason for shooting the 26-year-old without provocation. The aggrieved youth, numbering about 60, besieged the Kumasi Central Mosque Friday morning to inform the Muslim leaders of the unfortunate incident. According to the youth, the deceased would be buried only if justice is served.
We want the justice. We want the president to know that no, justice is not working. Somebody will not be killed without showing a gun or without holding a gun, even in America.
Coming up shortly is business.
The business news segment is brought to you by MTN, Universal Merchant Bank.
Renowned economist Ishmael Yamson has lauded government's management of the economy. He urged government to invest borrowed money into productive venture to ensure value for money.
Ghana's total debt as at the end of 2017 stood at 142.5 billion cedis, but by the end of February this year, it has increased to 145 billion cedis, representing 60% of GDP. Domestic debt stood at 68.2 billion cedis, representing 47% of the total debt, whereas external debt stood at 76.8 billion cedis, representing 53% of total debt. Renowned business captain Ishmael Yamson congratulated government for reprofiling its debt, but added that money borrowed should be applied to productive sectors of the economy.
The quantum of debt is not important to me. What is important to me is what we do with the debt, with the money that we borrow. If we borrow the money and we invest it in a way that gives us more value than the cost of the debt and the interest, it's good for everybody, isn't it? But if we borrow the money and we use it, we put it into consumption, then that can be a very disastrous situation, as we did in the past.
He tasked government to prioritize revenue mobilization.
I'm worried that quarter after quarter after quarter, we are falling behind on revenue generation. If we get that, we get to grips with that, then I think that we should be making faster progress.
He called for prudent economic management in an election year.
Every 4 years, we happily destroy our economy. We declare ourselves bankrupt. We run to the IMF. They come and discipline us. Then we behave ourselves very well. We stabilize the economy. Then the elections are coming, and then everybody becomes jittery. Indeed, I can tell you that one of the major issues facing this country is our politics. That's the major issue. Because we have made politics the cause of corruption and the cause of all the difficulties we have in this country.
The Chief Executive Officer of African Brand Warrior Fatima Ali Mohammed says stable price is key for a sustained and profitable agribusiness industry in the country. She urged stakeholders to push for guaranteed prices across the value chain of agribusiness industry.
Speaking at a seminar organized by the Association of Ghana Industries on agribusiness financing, Chief Executive Officer of African Brand Warrior Fatima Ali Mohammed guaranteed prices for farmers and other players in the value chain will provide the needed boost for agribusiness.
When they have a bumper crop, there's no ready market to take it. Okay, so what do? They again short sell themselves, or they throw away the product. We have situations in tomato, we have situations in the cassava, we have situations right now in the melon industry. And how can we ensure that they are guaranteed a price for the produce that they're selling, and also the consumers who are going to buy this produce from them are guaranteed to ensure that they are buying made in Ghana products.
Head of Risk Management at Omni Bank, Dominic Donko, noted the lack of a standard definition for SMEs limits their access to financial services.
No one parameter is adequate without standardizing the definition. It makes the discussion of SMEs a little bit too broad and not focused. It should be possible for all banks, all institutions, all agencies that claim support for SMEs to have one reference information. And that allows us then to discuss the question of what is causing the real gap between SMEs.
Farmers have persistently complained about their inability to access credit due to risk factors associated with their occupation. Dr. Frank Pra of the Research Department of the Bank of Ghana is hopeful farmers in the country will be able to secure increased credit from banks with the coming on board of the Ghana Incentive-Based Risk-Sharing Agricultural Lending.
The banks lack the, let me say, sufficient capacity to properly lend to the agriculture sector. The capacity of the banks are very, very important. And that is why the technical assistance is there. We want them to understand the sector that they want to lend to.
The agricultural sector remains one of the fundamental drivers of a strong Ghanaian economy. However, over the past decade, the agriculture sector has recorded steady decline. It is estimated that the agriculture sector will grow at an average of 3.3% yearly until 2018, while contributing just about 25% to the nation's gross domestic product.
Still in business, Chief Executive Officer of Ghana Employers Association, Alex Frimpong, has charged human resource management practitioners to migrate from their traditional administrative function to ensure organizations deliver in the competitive market. Speaking at the 4th Women Human Resource Conference in Accra, Alex Frimpong noted developing employee capabilities is crucial to ensuring quality output. Over the last decade, there has been a growing number of women who have risen to the summit of the human resource leadership role in the organizations. This has compelled the Ghana Employers Association, recognizing the significant contribution of women in human resource to business, to institute an annual event which provides a platform for female HR practitioners to share experiences. Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Employers Association, Alex Frimpong, referred to human resource as the greatest asset in any organization, urging practitioners to invest in developing employee capabilities.
We thought, given the unique role of women, there was a need for us to provide a platform for them to share ideas on how they can improve their capacity and performance towards their organizational success. What we try to do is to get them together, get professionals to help them to have some basic skills, some basic aptitudes that will help them to deliver and deliver appropriately.
Chief Executive Officer of the Energy Commercial Bank Ghana Limited, Christiana Olaoye, called for introduction of reforms to strengthen the practice.
Employees are the most important assets of the organization. And this is translated to mean that the quality and effectiveness of the organization is determined by the quality of the people that are employed.
The fourth Women in HR conference was on the theme Maximizing the Strategic Role of HR for Organizational Growth and Effectiveness. You're watching Midday Live on TV3. Do stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hello, good afternoon. Time now for sports here on Midday Live. My name is Yao Ofusulabi. Now, the Ghana Football Association has denied they are considering a replacement for Kwesi Nyantakyi as Ghana Football Association president, as he remains the president of the association, as it helps the police with investigations into allegations of corruption and influence peddling. In its first comments since Kwesi Nyantakyi's problems with the police began, the Ghana Football Association, as expected, came out fighting in the corner of their boss. The statement confirmed Nyantakyi has been granted bail but denied suggestions by one of its own members that they were considering installing an acting president. Executive Committee member Wilfred Osei had suggested that colleague Kwekweya was acting president of the Ghana Football Association, but the statement was unequivocal that leadership remains the same. The statement said nothing has changed in terms of the GFA hierarchy, and Mr. Nyantakyi still remains the president of the Ghana Football Association. The statement also said Nyantakyi has the full backing of the Executive Committee. The Ghana Football Association issued the statement after a meeting of 14 members of the Executive Committee at the M Plaza Hotel. Nyantakyi himself was not in attendance, but his key allies, including General Secretary Isaac Addo, were in attendance alongside George Friye, the man he recently sacked as vice president. Nyantakyi is under investigations for allegedly using the names of the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, Vice President Mamadou Bawumia, and other officials to extort money from a potential investor in an undercover investigation into Ghana football by Anas Aremia Anas, after the president reported the matter to the police. Sources close to Anas have suggested the investigations to be broadcast publicly on the 6th of June, focused on referees and top administrators in Ghana football, and claim it will have major ramifications on Ghana football. I should have said from the Ghana Football Association now to the Black Stars, and having broken onto the scene at the 2015 World Under-20 Championship as Ghana's #1 goalkeeper, Lawrence Atizigi has followed up on his bright start to his career through Sochaux, and he has earned a seat on the table with the big boys in the Black Stars.
Hopefully, the magic he worked in the last few months that attracted Kwesi Appiah will continue after he has arrived in the Black Stars. For many young players like Atizigi, it is about making it into the big time, and it gets no better than playing for the senior national team. As one of the 2 goalkeepers in the 23-man selection Appiah announced ahead of the Iceland and Japan friendlies, Atizigi grinned from ear to ear when asked about his latest call-up.
It's a great opportunity for me, and I'm so glad that I've been selected for the national team this time, so I think it's a good thing.
The young goalkeeper is adamant his stop-and-go start to his international career is put to bed while he books a permanent place in the Black Stars.
Well, I'll say yes. I've come to stay, and yeah, it's just focusing on what I'm coming to do here, just making my mind and trying to do all things in the right way, and I think and I hope I'm going to stay. Hard work, determination, and yeah, making my mind, preparing myself for the games, and that's it.
He has only Richard Ofori to fend off in the 2 friendlies lined up. But there is a feeling Appiah might give him a chance, as the nucleus of the team is being shaken with the Nations Cup coming up in less than a year.
Right to the UEFA Champions League, and the Champions League final will be contested by the highest scoring teams in this season's competition, with 2 of the world's most potent forwards in display. But Cristiano Ronaldo says despite Mohamed Salah's achievements this season, he is nowhere close to him just yet. This is why the fixture has all the markings of a classic.
With more than 90 goals between them in all competitions this season, it is hardly surprising the Champions League final has been billed as a battle between Real Madrid's Cristiano Ronaldo and Liverpool's Mohamed Salah. Both are sure to be in the running for the Ballon d'Or at the end of the 2018 campaign. But Ronaldo maintained Salah has a long way to go to reach his level.
It's completely different. He play with the left, I play with the right. I'm tall, is a little bit shorter. I play with the head. You know, we are completely different. People want to compare me with another player. I'm different than anyone. Salah is different than the other one, so we are different. But I have to say, you do it a fantastic Champions League, you do it a fantastic league, do it a fantastic season. But Saturday, let's see what's going to happen.
Sonny Cruz does not concur. He thinks Real have to do everything to stop Mo Salah or suffer a terrible fate on Saturday.
I think it's a very, very good player that can bring in some difficult situations, but we will have to find a solution for him and the rest of the players, because it's not only Salah, they have huge quality in offense with Firmino and Mane also, and on the other side they are also very tough to play, they're aggressive, and yeah, at the end you have to beat Liverpool, not only one player.
It is a game expected to entertain all and sundry. Goals may fly from everywhere, and this is shaping up as one of the most classic finals in recent history. Two sides with rich history in the Champions League, the world of football waiting anxiety for epic scenes on Saturday night.
Don't forget the UEFA Champions League final is tomorrow, the 26th of May in Kiev, that game between Real Madrid and Liverpool. Now to Barcelona legend Andres Iniesta, and he says he's heading to his new home with his friend Hiroshi Mikitani, owner of Japanese top flight side Vissel Kobe. Now Mikitani tweeted a picture of himself boarding a private jet with Iniesta, and the midfielder posted a photo of his own from inside the plane. The 34-year-old ended his 22-year stay at Barcelona this season, having won 22 major trophies. The side in the Japanese league are sixth after 15 games, having finished 9th last season. Iniesta, who scored the winning goal in the 2010 World Cup final against Netherlands, has been selected for Spain's squad for next month's tournament in Russia. Now to the National Basketball Association, and reigning champions, the Golden State Warriors, are on the brink of missing out on the NBA Finals following a 98-94 defeat by the Houston Rockets. The Rockets, who led the league with 65 regular season wins from 82 games, now have a 3-2 lead in the best-of-7 Western Conference Series. Now the Rockets have not reached the finals since they managed it on successive occasions in 1994 and 1995. The winner of the series will face either the Cleveland Cavaliers or the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals starting on the 31st of May 2018. That's all for sports this afternoon. My name is Yao Ofosulabu. We'll take international news next.
Well, North Korea has said it is still willing to talk at any time in any form after U.S. President Donald Trump cancelled his meeting with Kim Jong-un. Vice Foreign Minister Kim Che-won said Mr. Trump's decision was extremely regrettable. President Trump blamed the North's open hostility for the cancellation. The summit would have been the first time a sitting U.S. president had met a North Korean leader. The details of the meeting in Singapore on 12th June was unclear, but talks would have focused on ways of denuclearizing the Korean peninsula and reducing tensions. Just hours before Mr. Trump's announcement, North Korea said it carried out its promise to dismantle tunnels at its only nuclear test site. Mr. Trump announced the cancellation in the form of a letter personally addressed to Mr. Kim. A senior administration official in the U.S. later gave further details, saying North Korea had shown a profound lack of good faith. There were a series of broken promises from Pyongyang, the official told reporters, including when the White House sent the deputy chief of staff to Singapore to meet North Korean diplomats ahead of the summit. The North Koreans didn't show up, they simply stood us up. The official also said President Trump had dictated every word of his letter to Kim Jong-un. Well, meanwhile, North Korea appears to have blown up tunnels at its only nuclear test site in a move to reduce regional tensions. President Trump blamed the North's open hostility for the cancellation. The summit would have been the first time a sitting US president had met a North Korean leader. The details of the meeting in Singapore on 12th June was unclear, but talks would have focused on ways of denuclearizing the Korean peninsula and reducing tensions. Just hours before Mr. Trump's announcement, North Korea said it carried out its promise to dismantle tunnels at its only nuclear test site. Mr. Trump. And that's it for international news. Coming up shortly is entertainment. Born Augustine Osei-Wusu, rapper Caesar is arguably one of Ghana's famous and original rappers. The controversial rapper created funny lyrics like edibly chopiastic, romantically bombastic, and exceptionally fantastic, further endearing him to Ghanaians. But guess what? Messi Loco hitmaker says he's hung up his boots.
Caesar first gave music a try whilst in high school, but officially he started his career in 1999.
But before then, myself, Lokenya, Achiame, Tebobi, and at that time, Kenya was very popular. I was popular then, and I was representing my school, Tiamas Secondary. When we all completed school, I traveled to the United States. So when I was in States and I heard Kenya doing world music, so this stuff we were doing is now something huge, something we know. So I have to join the wagon.
Fly, fly, won't fly. This girl gonna make you fly. So beautiful like that, I fly. That's my body, Mr. Sly.
After 2 decades, the lyricist can boast of 5 albums, out of which came monster hits.
My first album was Afi Namaba. Afi Namaba. With Caesar. And then my second album came, so was a very popular song, Susun Sofo. Susun Sofo, Kabi Mamuna, say me dear, a so snemy, Dana me no, Dana me bo, is you.
Lady bottom power, won't so me my bye. Bye bye, so far, so good, excellent, succulent, elegant, romantic, bombastic, fantastic. When you let you know what your chopstick.
Produced by Apietus, Caesar's third album, Araba Lawson, featuring Oforian Ponsa, further established and shot him to national fame.
The third album became so popular that brought Caesar into the limelight. That was Araba Lawson. Okay, so fly.
Music lovers embraced Caesar's style, but those critics who believed in hardcore rap at the time described Caesar's style as shallow. Caesar disagrees with that. To him, his funny raps, simplified lyrics and terminologies rather won him many admirers.
The rhyme and the lyrics was funny to people's ear, but every line of it makes sense, because when I break it down, it is very, very deep. You know, sometimes some words can be shallow, but when you break down, you see that it's very deep, and that's how it was it. And it was the rhyme. It was like more or less like a kindergarten rap, very easy to rap along. So people are hardcore. Why what this? But at the end of the day, when I go to show and open my mouth, everybody fly. It became so popular that the fly alone, when you see Caesar, you call him fly. It's everywhere.
Caesar named his 2008 hit song, Messi Loco, featuring Richie Rich and rapper Tiny, as his most commercially successful composition.
And I was able to create my own terms in it. I have words like chopiastic. You will use a word that people will insult you, but I will create my word to mean the same word. Sackable, romantically bombastic, edibly chopiastic. Something that is edible is something that you can eat.
Tell them I've met a girl, promise me who's that matter, hey, cool. Exceptionally fantastic, busted, romantically bombastic, busted, edibly chopiastic, suckable, kissable.
After almost 2 decades of producing hits, Caesar
now a dealer in electrical parts, says he's hanged up his boots to go into business full-time.
When you come to my company, if it's a skyscraper or whatever it is, any building you come, you get your materials up to here. I do supplying and retailing as well. Me kwabo check of a normal. Even one container crana, it can do something better. Now, Oba Opera Square, Accra Central, now Bomidin Caesar. You will not mention the Caesar as musician. They will tell you Caesar of electrical, the big Takum electrical business guy. Music has given me fame. Let me use the fame to do business and reach some height that I want.
This shorty from Guyana, so pretty like Diana. Now all friends is set fire.
And that's it for Midday on TV3. But before we go and look at the top stories this afternoon, Ghana joins the rest of the continent to commemorate Africa Union Day. Deputy Roads and Highways Minister Anthony Carbo reports to police next week to assist in investigation on Tiger PI investigative documentary. Economist lauds government's management of the economy. And on the international front, North Korea says it is still willing to talk at any time and in any form. And that ends Midday Live on TV3. We are glad you stayed with us. My name is Efua Tieko. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon.